Today, August 12th, is the International Youth Day, and the theme for the occasion is Youth Engagement for Global Action, with millions of young people in Nigeria facing the widespread uncertainty being inflicted by coronavirus pandemic. This message will most likely resonate with that segment of the global population in need of self-actualization in education, politics, and business. So joining us now to have a discussion around this is Charles Odii, Executive Director, SME 100 Africa, author, development consultant, and entrepreneur. He'll be looking at the impact of COVID-19 on Nigerian youth enterprise against the backdrop of diminishing social and economic opportunities, prospect for more competitive corporate environment, post-pandemic engagement in politics, civil society, and the national question. It's a joy to have you to the program. Welcome. I'd like to start by saying this. There's a report recently that says over 23 SMEs are struggling to breathe as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I'm sure most of these SMEs, out of the close to 40 million SMEs we have in this country, are powered and run by young people or youth, as you might want to say. How can we take all these SMEs off the life support machine?
Okay, thank you so much for having me. Thank you. I think the statistics is more than that in terms of feeling the impulse of the young small businesses that are actually even closing shop, and some of them are, leaving the country, the shores of Nigeria. One of the things that I think that is very important and how we can try to start to help the small businesses is actually, someone was asking me on my way here, what is more important for small businesses at this time? And I said to them, it's actually government support. What we've been trying to do as an organization, which is SME 100 Africa, is to help these small businesses with access to finance, access to market, capacity development, mentoring, and networks. But all of that actually relies or rides on one platform, which is government support. The government has been trying in the last few months. There was an intervention fund by the Central Bank of Nigeria, which was in the sum of 50 billion naira. And, there are other initiatives that have been brought forward by the Office of the Vice President. But that in itself is not enough. It's not enough because some of these even intervention funds are not being accessed by these small businesses. And, the transparency in accessing these funds is not really clear. So I give you an instance with the CPN Intervention Fund for Small Businesses, which was 50 billion naira. The CBN comes out like 2 months later to say 49 billion naira has been disbursed to over 80,000 households. And, that begins to let you think about how many of these households actually access the funds, and were these funds the intervention funds for the people who actually the funds were for, or they were people who have actually applied for this kind of intervention before COVID-19. And so that in itself is to show that government actually can help, because even those who have accessed the funds are actually even coming back to business. Some of them are paying off some of their concerns in terms of loans and in terms of employing people before COVID-19. And we think that if government can actually even do more in terms of government support, some of these businesses will be back and running in no time.
Well, let's talk about the day, the International Youth Day. And I think that the theme this year is particularly important, as many young people in Nigeria feel excluded politically, socially, economically, and even in terms of employment. How would you describe the level of engagement of the young people when it comes to policy making, when it comes to decision making that concerns them? And would you say that, with the occasion of the COVID-19 pandemic, this is an opportunity, this is a tipping point for the young people to get a seat at the table and be heard?
Absolutely. I think that young people actually, it's the time for young people to actually arise in this country. If you look at, very recently, I was watching when Robert Abati was talking about the ease of doing business in this country. Government is very important in doing business in this country. Government can make or break an industry. And then what has happened is that young people, before now, are leaving some of this decision-making to be done by people who don't represent their interests. I don't know if you saw on Twitter, there was, I think sometime last year, there was a young man, I think he's the CEO of Budget IT. He actually went on to take an technical advisory role in government. And then a lot of young people came out on Twitter to backlash him, to say, you know what, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And I said to myself, if he doesn't take that role, who should? This is someone who's qualified to actually advise the government on budget and planning. And then I think that's the behavior of young people in this country. They're taking a back seat and they're allowing people to actually force policies for them that actually do not favor them. And then with us, one of the things that we did is we started a sit-down with government. It's something called the Lagos Small Business Summit. So it's something where we bring together government, academia, private sector, and small business owners to foster conversations around doing business in Nigeria and Lagos. And I say to a lot of young people, and any young person who's watching me who's actually trying to do business or do something innovative in this country, it's not enough to do stuff. You need to come out and be counted. You need to actually even interface with regulation and let them know, let them feel your input, let them know how the industry should be regulated and what actually you need as a small business owner or an innovator or an inventor, whatever it is that you're doing.
Well, Charles Odii, in 1985, the United Nations declared an International Youth Year, and Nigeria was part of all of that. And there was a lot of excitement. There was even a Barcelona declaration on how young people can be part of the development process. What's your assessment of how Nigeria has fared over the past 2 decades with regards to positioning young persons for greater engagement in the development process? And what do you think are the areas of omission? Is there a generational conflict? Many young people say the older generation have ruined their future. Older people insist that young people lack capacity. What are those things that we need to do?
Thank you. That's a very important question, Ruben. In terms of what needs to be done for youth development, a whole lot needs to be done. And then I was just reading before I came online, I was watching you guys and we were talking about insecurity in the country. And you know that I was watching the vice president one time who was talking about 70% of our population under the age of 30. And so you understand that 70% of our population is under the age of 30, and then you want to create jobs. That means you need to be talking to the 70% of these people. If you look, there's a triangle I try to explain. There is anger, hunger, and violence. A lot of young people are actually perpetrating violence in the country. That's because they are hungry. They are hungry, sorry. Hunger leads to anger. The anger leads to violence. So you see young people pick up arms and then constitute to the large youth unrest in the country. That's because they have nothing that they're doing. And then the government is not doing enough to engage them. Not just the government, the young people themselves. Like you were saying, young people themselves are actually just waiting for handouts. We have young people who are thriving, we have young people who are doing innovative things in technology, in music, in sport. Look at our Nollywood industry, look at our music industry exporting fantastic content to the rest of the world. But that's because these young people are actually not waiting for the government. So if really and truly what it is that you need to do is not heavily dependent on the government, I think that it's time for you to now take the bull by the horn, try to change the narrative of young people not actually being serious, like you were saying, and actually try to do and make something of what it is that you're trying to push forward. But in terms of generational wealth, I think that I'd like to say, I'll put it out there, that I think our elderly people are not doing enough for the young people in this country. Now, I give you an instance. Look at the tech space in the US. There's an organization called AOL invested in the Googles. The Googles invested in the Microsoft, in the next generation, which is the Facebook. The Facebook right now is, they're investing in other. Facebook has bought WhatsApp. Facebook has bought Instagram. And then that kind of generational investment is happening in the tech space in developed countries. Here, the reverse is the case. Capital is very expensive. Young people do not even have the means to access this capital. And when they are put on the table to access this capital, I was just talking to a small business owner in our community, and then she showed me the list of what the banks have told her to go get a loan from the bank.
Well, thank you very much, Charles Odii, for joining us on The Morning Show today. Thank you for your time and insights.